Actually, this particular, exploration has evolved very organically from, observing children outside to observing children inside. So, see, the background of this is that I have been quite concerned about the absolute loss of knowledge in modern educated people about all the existential facts of life, aspects of life. Modern educated people have become completely dependent on an expert for everything, and they have somehow disconnected from life completely. And because of that, they have been, damaging children left, right, and center, because they've been all the time controlled by the market and the expert, never using their own senses to understand children. So I started exploring, observing children from 1993. Till then, from 94, 98 or 95 to 91, I have not been observing children, but I was trying to make them creative. I wanted to save them actually. But in 91, as I started living with non-literate people, I realized that the whole tragedy is that we have not understood what is actually the nature of the child. And the reason is this, that, I was living with rural, traditional artisans, and I found that there was no teaching at all. And in spite of that, by the time children reach around 12 years, they become experts in their respective crafts. So I found this complete difference between indigenous societies, so-called illiterate people, and the educated people. 100% opposite approach to children. In the indigenous communities, there's no teaching at all, and children are absolutely free to function in the manner that life has enabled them to function. The problem with educated people is that our idea of freedom is that children will do all kinds of things. That's an absolutely unwanted fear that has been instilled in modern people. Actually, children don't do that, because in the rural tribal areas, children are 100% free, and they don't do all kinds of things. So, because that is dictated by life, it's not something that you with your ego is functioning, no? So as I began to observe children, I really found that what children require is autonomy, respect, love, and trust. This is all what they require. They need nothing more. They don't need your instruction. They don't need your disciplining. They don't need your toys. They don't need your books. Nothing, absolutely nothing is required. Because learning is the nature of life. Learning is the nature of life. To live means to know. It's a choiceless thing, actually. Because can you choose with your senses? Are you hearing me now? Are you choosing not to hear me? Can you choose not to see? You have eyes, you're seeing. Your senses are not in your control at all. It's functioning. So this has been completely neglected in the modern paradigm. And so I began to observe children. From 91 onwards, I've been observing children. And meanwhile, I also stopped reading completely. 100% I stopped reading. Because I realized that I'm actually not observing. I'm observing by the thoughts that is already in my head. There's already some ideas that has been fed into your head. So you're seeing the child through the ideas that are given. So naturally, we don't actually see the child. So I stopped reading. And there's also another interesting thing that I realized, that when I was living with illiterate people and literate people, the difference is that literates learn the word and illiterates learn the world. And that makes all the difference. Because to learn the world is what you're equipped for. That is what your whole system, your cognitive system is meant for, understanding the world, not for reading and imagining. No, reading is a tool. Book can be a tool, but not your, it cannot dictate your cognition. This is what a very subtle thing that modern people have completely missed. So, from the journey, I began to work in the last 6, 7 years. I've been working with parents and trying to get them to observe. And that observation has actually made tremendous change to people who have been, collaborating with me. Just observation, they're able to understand that what the child is doing. See, in observation, you don't have to think. That I show you this bottle you saw, you don't have to think about it. Now you saw it. You see? So natural cognition is actually something that you don't have to, work your brain at all. You will see. So there are two things that I explored in this process. One, the damages of modern mindset, modern cognitive, people who have been reading, and how does their cognitive system rewires, and they stop seeing and they create ideas in their head and they imagine that is true. Basically, educated people have opinions, that's all. They have no knowledge. Because when you see, what you see is knowledge. If you don't use your senses, you don't have knowledge. Then you're imagining something. That's an imagination because you're not seen it. It's all in your imagination. So what we've been doing in the last few years is that we have been systematically observing, documenting, and trying to understand this whole cognitive process. And actually, another big damage of the educated people is that they have no idea how to observe without thinking. And they also find it very difficult to communicate with children the first 2 years or 2.5, 3 years, because you only know how to use language. That sensitivity to observe and understand is lost. So you are in a hurry to teach the child how to speak so that then you can begin to speak. But just this ability to observe, sense, feel, intuit has been completely taken away because we have never used our senses, because senses are the basic tools that will enable then the further development of intuition and everything related to that. Sensitivity, all that is related to senses. So once you remove senses from cognition, then you can only create ideas with your head. That's all. And that too, you will have to depend on some book, because ideas don't just come like that. Because all the ideas of modern humans comes from the books they have read or the experts they have heard, not from the child, not from observing. So this particular idea of would-be parents, inviting would-be parents, is to basically shift this focus, this observation after birth to before birth. So right from the time the child is in your womb, you begin to sense, feel, and kind of respond to the child, to the child, in the womb itself. So, this also came to me very, very interestingly, naturally. Somewhere around 1991, I happened to meet a person, a friend who was a smoker, and she was pregnant. And I think it was around 6 months or 7 months or something like that. 6 months, exact thing I don't remember. And what she told was that when she was smoking, when she smokes, the child kicks from inside. This is what she told me. And then she told me, continued that after a month or so, even the urge to smoke makes the child kick. So which actually means that even your mind, even your, needs are actually taken over by the child. And then I kept my antennas open to listen to more and more of this. So I came across many such very interesting, experiences. And then I also realized that the vomiting sensation that usually happens to pregnant women is probably because the child doesn't like what you're eating. Like meaning it's not good for its health. That's the reason. There's no like and dislike in the manner that we think. It's actually health is the reason why we don't like and dislike. That's the fundamental reason. Which of course we condition and we change our taste, condition the taste, and then we forget that it is actually health that should dictate the taste. You know, so this is the loss of biology that I'm talking about. This is the loss of connection with life's messages that I'm talking about. Then there is another very interesting incident of that was I came across mother's experience, in Orville, Pondicherry, that she happened to see two children who looked very familiar to the Aurobindo mother. And then, so she was telling that these children look very familiar. And then suddenly she remembered that these children looked like the paintings done by a painter called Reynolds. He has done a fantastic, beautiful drawing of two children, And so mother told that, that this is what I can see the similarity. And the biological mother told that in fact, she keeps that particular photo in front of her. And she always, every day she sees that and imagine that my children are going to be like this or child is going to be like this, So I find, there are a lot of fantastic such experiences that keeps reminding you that there is something far more magical and sacred and mystical about life, which modern education completely takes away. It actually makes us very dry. We call it nonsense called scientific and completely dried out from this beautiful experience of life. So so this is what I thought. That we should now begin. And I also see other very important thing you must understand is that the crisis of modern humans basically can only be understood by really understanding what has made us anti-life. And that begins with children. As children, we were taken out of our biological process, and that is why all of us have become anti-life. That is why we don't know life at all. We have to read and then, imagine things about life rather than actually, getting a sense of what actually is life. See? So I believe that the meta crisis or the root of all the crises that we are facing today is fundamentally a cognitive crisis. A crisis in disturbing the knowing that normally happens automatically. You see, the indigenous societies were never anti-life. They have lived here for thousands of years in harmony with nature. That is only because there is a kind of cognitive system that they followed because the life made them do it. It's not their ego that made it happen. You see? So I think it is important. So part of this exploration is also to understand what is actually cognition. Why is that modern humans have turned against life? And why is that indigenous societies, illiterate societies, have always been life itself? One doesn't have to say pro-life; they're life itself. So a deeper exploration of this is to truly understand how do cognition actually happens without language, without all that kind of theories that we have. How does it happen naturally? So the exploration basically is from a larger and a deeper perspective of to understand what is actually cognition, what is to be human, and at the same time, seeing whether the would-be mothers can start a journey of trusting their messages that comes from the womb. That's basically the thing. And how I'm envisaging this is that, we would like to hold a safe space where the would-be mothers, if they feel like, can start sharing what is happening to them, and and create a supporting space there. And of course, we will ban all the strange scientists from that place, because we are not, don't want any theory behind anything. We would rather like to trust what your experience. We will never challenge your experience. That's all. So naturally, we will create a space where you are free to talk about what exactly you have experienced. And so in that, what I feel is that people who have who have also had this strong experiences like this, who have trusted their intuition, and how the senses function, how the senses change, who have observed this, plus people who have been actually concerned with natural birthing. There are a few friends who have come joined here who have been doing that for many years. So people like that who is what we are hoping to hold a space, as a team, to hold the space. And so that is basically the idea that we have. And of course, if this is a journey, it's not that I suddenly planned this. It organically happened. Actually, when I actually thought of doing would-be parenting workshop, I never thought I will deal with the womb. I only wanted to talk about how actually the whole process that I've observed of children when they are out, from 2 year onwards. That has been something that I've been studying very systematically, and so that is what I had in mind. But as I began to explore this, I realized that no, it's very important to start right from the womb. Start trusting life from the womb. See, one thing that I feel is that ill health is not natural. That is because we have created a condition that is what is creating disease in the being. Disease is not natural, because the kind of lifestyle we lead, the kind of food that we eat, the kind of thoughts that we have, everything is actually coming together and creating more and more diseases in modern humans. So I think it is important to understand what is actually the nature of life. You see? So I've heard of Garb Samskar and things like that, where you begin to tell what to do, what kind of, what child should become. I'm now thinking that maybe we should adopt a slightly more, maybe sensitive way of just listening to the child, listening to the messages from there, and becoming absolutely mindful of whatever it wants to become, and trusting that life will take care, because see, what is happening in modernity is that we are continuously conditioning the child. We are continuously telling this is what you should do. So the instruction that we are doing after the child comes out, now we are doing right from inside itself. I believe that the sensitivity with which you become once you turn your attention to your inner being, I think that itself will make you into a very different person who is sensitive, who is open, who is, some transformation will happen just by that act itself, I think, and I think that would be far more, uh, uh, far more, what do you call that? Pro-life. This is what I think. You don't have to believe what I say. That, but I feel that this is a very, very, because I think this whole meditation and all that can happen just by this act of being present to the child. Just listening to the baby right from inside. Because see, I feel that the intention of the child is to find a place which is absolutely good for the child. That's why the child is cleaning you up. The child is healing you. The child wants you to eat the right food. So it's actually making everything possible for its life and making all the changes. So I think if we become extremely sensitive to that, I think that itself will make all the changes. And then probably you don't have to do any kind of garb samskar or anything like that. And something beautiful will happen just by that, because you are then becoming very sensitive and beautiful and innocent and all that, no? and trusting life, and that itself will will create the right condition for the child. This is what I feel, so this is one thing. The other thing that I'm also keen is that I was actually discussing this with someone else, and he told me something fantastic. I know many people will find it difficult to believe this, but what this friend told me was that he can recall his experience in the womb. Yes, memory of the womb. You see, well, these are very rare people, but they exist, and so I'm also hoping that we will find a few people like that. In fact, I came across, in the internet, in that thing, Medium. I did find somebody sharing her experience of her memory. So it's not that that uh, rare. Well, of course, it may be that very much rare, but there are people, and I think it may be beneficial to invite, if we meet somebody, to come for our sessions. So so the invitation is to the would-be mothers that if they would like to you know explore with us, then do write, do send us a personal message, and we will try and put together a small team. And so of course we will also would like to say that it will not be a very open kind of a space where anybody and everybody can join. So it will be a very closed space, a safe space, where only very few people who are not pregnant would be there. Very few people. Uh, that will be people who have been actually into natural birthing, like Nutunji has been doing that. You know, who have been helping with natural birth and things like that. There will be few people like that who are who have had experience of that, who can probably give some tips. So so it will not be a place where anybody and everybody uh, can be there. So feel free, actually, if you are would like to join in this, do let me know. Yeah, people who are pregnant, I'm talking about that only. Would be meaning, I'm not talking about somebody who is going to get married and then later. No, no. I'm talking about people who are already pregnant, and even up to 2 3 years, I think, 2 years. You see, basically, the whole issue is this: can we bypass language? That's the whole question. Can we be sensitive to children and learn what they're trying to tell us? That's a basic, that's what it is. Can we make ourselves sensitive, observant, intuitive, and give rest to your rational mind and just understand, no? All right. Also, please understand that this is not a place where experts are there. Please, I hope you understand that. This is not a place where experts are going to tell you what to do. Please understand that. There is a place where we will hold sensitively so that you feel free to share. And we hold it. That's all. And we trust you. That's all. You see? Yeah. Uh, my number is 94471 21544. 94471 21544. It is there in the group, so you won't miss it. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.